Thanks for tuning in to the World XP podcast. If you're enjoying the content, please drop us up, drop a like, and let us know your thoughts below in the comments. Also, please consider supporting our podcast via the link below. It really helps us out. John, welcome back to the World XP podcast. Our resident sports guy is back. NBA playoffs are starting tomorrow?
They start today at 1 Eastern time.
They start today at time of recording.
So Sixers. Yep.
So we are recording this on Saturday morning. So we're officially getting our predictions in before the first playoff game, but after all the seeding has been done. I'd like to take credit for that on the timing, but it isn't.
I mean, they're technically not in the playoffs yet until they are seeded number 7 or 8. Those teams are not in.
Fair enough. How have you been? Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. I've been doing well. Just glad to be back. Yeah.
So we'll start off right with the hard-hitting question: who's winning the chip?
Okay, so no bias here, but the Sixers. I actually do have Philadelphia winning. I think this is one of those unique years. I'm just from a fan standpoint, I'm hoping, but one of those years where I think Embiid just breaks out into his own. You see it out of these legendary players like a Kareem, a Kobe, a Magic. They have one of those special years where it's just nobody can stop him. Kind of like Giannis when Milwaukee won. It was just out of nowhere. But I do think it's going to be that way, but there's a lot of support that's there. Like James Harden, I think he's going to put in a maximum effort because he really wants it. He took pay cuts to come back to the team to bring on like a PJ Tucker. And I think this is the year they actually can get past Boston, which has been their main problem.
Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you for that clip. I always have trouble finding reels, so there we go. There's
but aside from that, I'd probably give it till, it's hard to think Milwaukee, because especially since Chris Middleton left the last game. Injury, I don't know how healthy he's going to be. You always got to watch out for a healthy Golden State, but they haven't had Andrew Wiggins for a while.
Yeah.
And who knows, Sacramento.
They've been true.
Underneath the radar. Maybe they sneak.
All right. Do you want to start maybe with the East, and then we can go to the West? Okay. So when I look at the East and the standings, the first three are kind of that's what it's been for the last couple of years.
Right.
And then I look past that. Cleveland has Garland and Donovan Mitchell and Sexton, and they're decent but unproven in the playoffs. New York, unproven in the playoffs. Brooklyn, I don't even count them really because they don't have any of the team anymore. Like Bridges he's a good player, but they got into that position because they had KD and Kyrie and stuff before. So that team is not the same. The Hawks, I'm looking at, I'm like, nah. And then Miami is like, as a Miami fan, I've been very underwhelmed with us this year. So I'm also like, yeah. But of 5 through 8, Miami is the only one that could cause any problems in my head. But we have the Bucks in the first round, so.
Right. Yeah, and I'm pretty much in agreement. I think experience-wise, especially coaching standpoint, I think Spoelstra is the best out of those ones. You can put Thibodeau right behind them with the Knicks. Now, me personally, I'll get to it later, but I think the Knicks beat Cleveland in an upset in 7. But Cleveland honestly has the best, I think, of those rosters, and that's why they're a 4 seed. And while I have them losing, I think they could honestly be the most problem, given that they have a Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley in the paint that can outdo Milwaukee, Boston's, because they're just bigger. And their guards, Mitchell, Garland, they're great. So they can match up easily with, let's say, Boston, Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, who's been off and off injured, Drew Holiday, a Grayson Allen he's out. He's still out. He's doubtful right now. So I think Cleveland's only the real team between those seedings that could cause trouble.
Well, so if you have them lose, so let's
Yeah.
go matchup by matchup. I think probably everyone would say Milwaukee can beat Miami. What do you have it in, like 5 or 6?
Yeah, I've been 5. Like a lot of these, I'm giving an extra. Like I'll give it a 5 or 6 just to be kind. Do I really think Milwaukee's going to lose one to Miami? Really? No. I give one to Miami just because I think. I mean, you got that Marquette, Jimmy Butler
Yeah.
tie there, so I give them one game where they kind of maybe early in the series, maybe like game 2, they win in Milwaukee, but then it goes back to Miami and it's like lights out. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really give us much of a yeah, I'm not hopeful really at all.
Right.
There is one tiny part of my brain that is like, well, they might show up because Coach
Yeah.
Spo can light something under them. Maybe we take it to 6 or 7 and make it interesting, but
Hmm.
I don't see us really winning that one. Um, and I think the seeding really messed with us well, although if Middleton is out, is Middleton going
If
to be out?
Middleton's out and you've got Strus playing as good as he did last night, I mean, they could give him a run. Don't get me
Yeah,
wrong, but that was the
that's where
problem. Strus was the only one who showed up last night until
yeah.
before Butler. Yeah.
That's the seeding kind of if we'd showed up against Atlanta, I would give us a much better chance against Boston. I think we match up better with them.
Yeah,
Um,
I do too.
so okay, so then we got Boston, Atlanta as the 2 and the 7.
Mhm.
And what are your thoughts on that one?
I see a clean sweep. Um, I don't know how Atlanta would really prove a problem, given that the Celtics pretty much have an advantage in every position, aside from maybe you could argue the guards, um, with Trey Young versus Marcus being better than Marcus Smart. Um, I mean, Brown plays small forward, so small forward Boston, power forward Boston with Jason Tatum. Um, and center's pretty even out with Horford's experience, even though Clint Capella is better statistically this year. But Horford's been shooting the 3 well with Boston. Unfortunately, he couldn't do that in Philly. Um, but yeah, I just don't see any way, especially with the depth Boston has. Boston has arguably the best bench in the league.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so we got Philly and Brooklyn.
Mhm.
You expect that one to be similar to the
Uh,
Boston series?
yeah, I either see, I mean, I have it in 5, but I could easily see a sweep. And it's just one of those. Bridges is great. And they've got a good young team now, aside from, well, Seth Curry, and maybe 1 or 2 others. But it's just too much talent versus inexperience, and just you don't have the experience head coaching. You've got Doc Rivers. Going against him, you'd have to be a Budenholzer, a Spoelstra, or even Thibodeau to kind of match up. But Sixers have the advantage, A, at center with Embiid, B, at guard. You got Harden. I think Maxi and Bridges kind of cancel each other out. I'd give an edge to Bridges, probably just because he's maybe a little bit better defensively.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been tearing it up lately. But I mean, you got PJ Tucker versus Finney Smith. Like, it's not the most exciting at the forward position, but I mean, it, Tucker doesn't hit much. He doesn't shoot much, but his defense is perhaps the best out of those power forwards in the league.
You think they'll put him on Bridges?
They could, given his size and his speed to kind of run with Bridges. Um, be interesting because I'm not sure how Brooklyn's gonna do their lineup, if they'll shake it up. I mean, Bridges is playing, Simmons isn't playing,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what Brooklyn's gonna do. I think they're in one of those positions where it's like, great, you got in. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those good momentum blocks, like to build on, like kind
Mm-hmm.
of like OKC. Like, hey, you had a good thing going, went as far as you could. Great, you're not winning it all because Can Dinwiddie, Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Claxton. I mean, Claxton and Embiid have been back and forth last couple of games, but yeah, it's just too much talent. Yeah,
You mentioned Dinwiddie
yeah.
and sidebar on Dinwiddie. Have you paid any attention to the Kuzma Dinwiddie trash
Um,
talking that's going on? I saw something pop up on Twitter and I
yeah,
immediately didn't read it, but I figured I'd ask you.
yeah. I same thing. I didn't read anything into it. Kuzma's often never ever land. Or where is he? Can't even remember where Kuzma is.
Is he in
He's just
Washington now?
yeah, he's just been all over the place. Especially with his outfits, he's all over the place. Dinwiddie's uh, Dinwiddie's decent. One moment he's like the top five guard, like he's shooting lights out. Next moment, it's like, can we sell him? What do you want for him? We'll throw in another pick just to get rid of him. But no, he's a good player. Both of them are, but I haven't paid any attention. It means nothing
Yeah.
compared to, hey, the Kyle Anderson, Rudy Gobert. And they're punching each other.
Oh yeah. We'll get
Yeah,
to that when we get to the West. I forgot about
right.
that.
Yeah.
Okay. Cleveland, New York is the last one that we got.
Yeah. So Cleveland, New York, that one's, I think, going to actually be the most interesting because, well, there's no other matchup that's really going to be as close. I think from a talent and honestly coaching standpoint too. Um, and the Knicks, they actually had better regular season record against the Cavaliers. They were 2-1 against the Cavs this season, and both those wins weren't by all that close. That said, it's going to be interesting because Julius Randle has been out with injury past week and a half, 2 weeks. So his status is up in the air. But let's say he's good to go and he can play healthy. I mean, they've got a decent bench then because you're not having to start Obi Toppin. Um, and you can put in other guys that can easily like fill in the roles, like an Isaiah Quickly, and some other guys on that depth. But it's very even because you got Garland versus Brunson at the point. Donovan Mitchell, of course, he's been as far as shooting guards, and not even close as far as small forward because you got RJ Barrett and I think Cleveland's got some injuries.
Mm,
And you're putting out maybe Karis LeVert or I mean CD Osman. It's like I don't think they're better than Barrett.
no.
Julius Randle, he's all-star caliber, at least when he's healthy. But I mean, it's been a back and forth for me. Whether Cleveland will win, whether Knicks would win. I just want the Knicks mainly because I think Julius Randle is going to be that difference maker. And same with Brunson, where they've got enough experience to just outdo the rest. But I wouldn't be surprised if if Cleveland wins in let's say like 5 or 6, and because the Knicks can do that, where they can just flatline.
Yeah. So I've heard a lot of analysts like JJ Redick says this on his podcast all the time. Often the team with the best player in the series will win
Right.
the series. And in the first three, Milwaukee, Boston, Philly, all those teams would have the best
That's the
player. Um, unless Jimmy shows up and turns into whatever version of Jimmy shows up like
Yeah.
in the playoffs sometimes. But um so in the Cleveland New York series, who do you have as the best player in that? Do you have it as Mitchell or you have it as Randall or you have it as somebody else?
Um, it's tough. I'd probably go Mitchell just because he's a little bit healthier than Randall. But if it's a full healthy Randall, I'd go Randall.
So you're looking at probably what, 7 games for this one? Who you got at the end?
Yeah, I got Knicks in 7.
Knicks in 7. That's
Yeah.
interesting because earlier you were mentioning, and I'm not saying that you're contradicting yourself, but it's interesting matchup wise that you're saying that Cleveland would be the biggest problem to those top three teams, but they don't
Right.
match up well enough with New York to
Yeah.
even get out of that one. So
Right.
that could be interesting.
Yeah.
Very nice. All right. So then we got, okay, so it'll be Milwaukee. New York, and Boston, Philly.
Right.
How do you have Milwaukee, New York matching up? Is this for you another easy one for the Bucks?
Yeah, this is where the gas runs out for the Knicks. Bucks still in five. I get the Knicks one just because maybe they get an early one again on the Bucks, but or like maybe like a game three, like the first one in New York, hypothetically.
Yeah.
But no. And even without Chris Middleton, Bucks are a better team, I think.
Yeah. They just match up better. Well, because Randall, because you got Giannis and Brook Lopez as
Right.
big guys, and when those two, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
tough matchup for anybody really, except
Yeah.
for Philly, which I'm sure we're about to get to in a second. So Boston, Philly, that one to me goes 6-7, 6 or 7.
Right. Yeah, and Boston's like I said, Boston's had Philly's record. Even the last time they played each other, it went into overtime, and that was without Boston playing Jalen Brown. Now analysts and commentators may say, yeah, Boston's way better because they can, even with Jalen Brown, force an OT against a fully starting Sixers team, and that's true. Like Boston's had Philly's number the past 3, 4, 5 seasons. But this is, like I mentioned before, one of those special scenarios where I think just eventually it's going to give. The tide's going to turn the other way. And I think that's one of those matchups where Embiid puts like a stamp on his legacy. Like, even if he maybe doesn't make the finals, that's one of those matchups where he puts a, like, hey, I'm an MVP caliber player for a reason. Give me my award now, type of things.
Yeah, so let me ask you, what are you seeing from him that is making you think that? Because I'm just pulling up his profile on
Yeah,
ESPN, right? So 33 points is more than a little bit more than he normally does, but
right.
the 10 rebounds are about normal for him, maybe even a little low. The assists are not,
Harden.
they're up, but Harden Harden is there. And the field goal percentage around, like, I don't see, he's been in my head, he's been this good for a while. What are you seeing from him that gives you this indication that you think he's going to go do something like that?
Right. So I think he's going to do something like that because, well, not just simply because he's a year older, but he's now got guys he's used to playing with. Like last year, you look, Harden wasn't always there. Maxi, I mean, even the beginning of the season, like Maxi wasn't there. Harden wasn't there. He wasn't there for a time. It was like nobody's there all at the same time, which I think kind of was the problem with Brooklyn. Why they kind of faltered was because you got Durant and Kyrie sometimes playing, and then you had Harden sometimes playing. And it was like when they were all playing, it's like the best team in the league. When that's not the case, then it's like, eh. But that's the thing is Sixers, I think statistically have been the best team since the break overall,
Hmm.
record wise. And so now, do I think it's just simple as that? No, because certain teams you're playing different teams. It's not like you're playing an easier or worse strength, or it is where you're playing an easier or worse strength than, let's say, another team, because it's not even. But the thing I see as the difference is that he's the one who's like, get the ball into me. When you looked at when he was playing alongside Simmons, he was more hesitant. He's more active. He's more commanding in the paint, outside the paint. And you look at him and Jokic, and it's like, yeah, you can. It's not like Shaq where you can just, hey, if he's at the perimeter, just let him be. No, you gotta actually guard because they can shoot threes. They can shoot, and I mean, the things that he's doing haven't been done by since like Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem, like no other player's done that. Even Nikola Jokic hadn't done what he's doing.
Hmm.
So
Fair
I
enough.
just
That's a good answer.
I just think it's not like he's owed the award for MVP. I just think he is the best player this year.
Yeah. It's due. You're saying he's due for a big playoff
Yeah, that too.
run. He's too good to not have one.
Yeah, and now that there is no Simmons, I mean, for 2 years now, there's no more pointing fingers.
Yeah, it's got to
If
be
you
him.
can't get it done, it's on you.
Mm-hmm. All
Yeah.
right, so we'll take what, Philly and 7?
Yep.
You got Philly and 7. Okay,
Yeah.
Eastern Conference Finals, Philly,
I've got
Milwaukee.
I've got Sixers and 6 because they're better matchup wise. And again, that's where it becomes interesting because Chris Middleton's injury at the end of the season, how long these both teams can stay endurance wise, especially Harden, who's had known injury history out of the past 3 years, especially the hamstring. It's like who can last the longest? And
Mm.
I think I give a slight edge to Philly just because I think their bench honestly could step up in that scenario, even though they've not.
Even though they've not. Is
Well,
this is this you
they
hoping?
haven't been pressed to be like in this scenario. Like we haven't been to a conference finals since AI. So
Has it been
these
that
guys
long?
are waiting for their moment. And this is one of those, hey, a lot of those Milwaukee guys have been there. Yeah, they know what it takes, but are they as hungry? Who's hungrier? That's where it comes down to. And I
I
think,
I believe that you guys have not been to the I like because I know you know your stats, but that
yeah,
seems almost unbelievable because you guys have been a top 3 seed in the East for the
right.
past like 6, 7 seasons in a
Yeah.
row.
No, we haven't really seen a conference finals since I think we actually made the finals against Kobe and the Lakers when they
Mm-hmm.
had Kobe, Shaq, um, and that guy who got stepped over.
Elu.
What? Yeah, yeah, he might get stepped over in the playoffs.
Oh boy.
But yeah, it's been that long. It's but
All right. So Philly
yeah,
in the finals from representing the East.
mm,
Very nice. All right. West.
West. Yep.
So the West
So
for me, as I think
yeah,
for a lot of people, and you can tell me if I'm totally wrong, but the West for me, there's only 10 games separating first from eighth.
right. I think
So
that's still true. Yeah,
to me, anyone really can come out of that. I feel like, except maybe Minnesota, but everyone
right,
else, like when the Lakers squeaked in, obviously they have LeBron and AD, so they can like their seed doesn't really matter. Golden State, if everyone's healthy, they can
right.
make a run. The Clippers have PG and Kawhi, they can make a
Mm,
run. The Suns have Devin Booker, Durant. Like you when we talked earlier about who's the best
yeah,
player in the series, all of these teams from 7 all the way up to 4 would have the best player in a lot of series. Like the star power that they have all the way
right,
down is crazy.
right. Yeah, and that's pretty much why I got most of these teams winning certain series, uh, in the West at least, is because of that star factor.
All right. So is that your take on it as well? That it's pretty wide open?
Yeah, it's pretty wide open. I mean, I think it's looking back only 11 games because I mean 10 games between Denver and the Lakers, but then 11 if between Minnesota. But
Yes, 11, yeah.
irregardless, yeah, I think there's a even though it's not noticeably large, I don't think it's really going to be a close competition between Minnesota and Denver. I mean,
Yeah, that's the only one that I think is pretty cut and
right.
dry.
Yeah, especially
How do they
yeah.
match up? Break down
So
that
they,
matchup for us.
yeah, so they've been this during the regular season they were even 2-2 piece. Um that said, it's a lot different headspace kind of going into the playoffs. One team just barely got through. I mean, I know they won considerably large over Oklahoma City, but it was 4 games ago where um, you had Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson. Well, Rudy Gobert punching Kyle Anderson um, on the sidelines. So, and I was watching the game very closely yesterday to see like, hey, are they even playing on the same at the same time? Like, they're two different positions. One of them's more of a small forward. One of them, I mean, maybe you could put Kyle Anderson at power forward, But then the other one's more of course, the center, Gobert. And I don't think there was a moment where they were on the court at the same time. I mean, the starters weren't even. It was Gobert and Nikhil Alexander-Walker. Like usually it is Anderson. So something to watch for, but I don't think it's. I think just the whole headspace that they're in is just going to get exploited by Denver. Too much talent in the starting five with them.
Sweep.
Uh, yeah. I mean, I said Nuggets in 5, but I'm thinking sweep.
Yeah. All right. So you got Nuggets moving on. Then we've got Memphis and the Lakers. And that I think there's been some trash talking going back and forth. If I've heard that Dylan Brooks is
Yeah,
talking
but
and
yeah, he should really stop talking, because it tends to backfire on him, and I
yeah.
think it backfires yet again because hey, you're going up. Like, yeah, your team might have the edge at the guard positions with John Moran and Desmond Bain. Like I think, of course, Ja's better than uh, what's his name, D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and do I really think? Do I really think the white boy that they got is as good as Desmond Bain, the
Oh,
3 point?
Austin, what's his name? Reeves.
Yeah, Austin Reeves. Do I really think he's as good as Desmond Bain? No. Shoot,
Nah.
Desmond Bain was in the 3 point contest for a reason. But you're Brooks. You're going up against the king. Like he earned that title for a reason. And the Lakers they've been very good of late. They've been meshing. They might not be as good as they were when they won the finals a couple of years ago in the bubble, from a roster standpoint. But when they're on a roll and they're staying healthy, AD and LeBron are a force to be reckoned with. It doesn't even matter if you have a Curry, Clay. Like, it doesn't matter. You got to watch out.
Are
And
you at all
that's why
worried about Anthony Davis's health?
a little bit, but I'm actually thinking he's going to stay healthy for the playoffs. I don't see him actually getting injured, which is nice because he's a great player. And that's why I think Lakers in 7. Um, and I think while the coaching matchup is pretty even between Taylor Jenkins and Darvin Ham, I'd probably give us, I mean, given that Jenkins has, I think, maybe a little bit more postseason experience as far as head coaching standpoint, I give Ham the edge really because uh, he's played. And also the bench is better for the Lakers than
Hmm.
Memphis, especially with all these injuries that Memphis has.
So I've not paid much attention to the Lakers this year. My recollection or perception of Anthony Davis is and the Lakers this year is that always injured, struggling, squeak into the playoffs,
Mhm.
probably get bounced in the first round if Davis is dinged up. Then I started doing some Googling and some research on what he's been doing this year, and he's actually played like 50 some games, I think.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
he seems to be he doesn't have any nagging
No.
injuries or so going into the playoffs. Looking at his stats, averaging 26, 12 and a half rebounds, 2.5 assists. So
Mhm.
he's been playing quite well. Yeah, 56 games this year. So
Yeah.
and he played Sunday the
Right.
2nd, Tuesday the 4th, Wednesday the 5th. He played it in 32 minutes in a back-to-back.
Yeah.
Friday the 7th, Sunday the 9th.
Right.
So he's been playing. So
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah. And he's been playing. He's been playing more. And he's been playing well. Um, and that's good because they really needed to up his minutes leading into this because you can't just send him out expecting, hey, 30 plus minutes against a Memphis Grizzlies team. Um, that said, the reason that's the big reason why I give the Lakers the edge is because Memphis doesn't have Steven Adams. He's out for the rest of the year. You're
oh,
putting up,
that'll do it. Yeah.
you're putting up Xavier Tillman and Santi Aldama from what is it, Loyola, Maryland, first rounders last year against
Mm,
like a perennial all-star center in Anthony Davis. Good luck with that.
yeah. That's not a good look. Though they do have Jaren Jackson Jr., who's a
right? But
monster defensively.
yeah, they do. But I
Not
just
enough
think
though.
he's defensive. He's a great defensive guy, and they'll probably put him on Anthony Davis. But then that frees up power forward for the Lakers, which then you can put, let's say, Hachimura, Vanderbilt, or even ship LeBron and put in, let's say, Malik Beasley or Lonnie Walker the fourth at small forward.
Yeah. Do you think the Grizzlies can keep their roster around? I was just looking through the two rosters, and the Grizzlies don't have anyone older than 29, and that's Steven Adams, whereas the
Right.
Lakers have a bunch of older players. Also, I didn't realize that Tristan Thompson was only 32. I thought in my head when the Cavs were going on those runs, he was like, I don't know, 28, 29 already, but he was
Yeah.
that math would put him at what, early mid 20s, like 24, 25. I
Yeah.
didn't realize he was that young. But do you think the Grizzlies can keep this roster around? Because I look at Desmond
Mhm.
Bane's 24, John Morant 23, um, Jaren Jackson Jr. 23, even Dylan Brooks is only 27. So
Yeah.
do they have a chance to keep this around, or are they going to run into contract issues and this team is going to fade?
I don't think they'll fade. I do think they have to reach some sort of extension with at least Jackson Jr. or Morant this offseason. Um, or maybe even Desmond Bain. I think they'll lose either Bain or Brooks, but they'll make sure they keep Moran and Jackson Jr., especially because Jackson Jr. is probably the defensive player of the year. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Well, it'd be great. I mean, if they lose Brooks, but they still keep the other three and
right,
Steven Adams, that's still a good core that they can build around moving forward. So at
right.
least that's how I see it, anyways. Okay, so you got Lakers in seven.
Mhm.
Who's next? Sacramento and Golden State. What are your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I'd love to give it to Sacramento, truly, but Golden State won 3 out of 4 matches in the regular season. And a lot of times this was without a Steph Curry or without an Andrew Wiggins or without some other star. I do think Sacramento is truly one of those teams that's going to be a legitimate threat in the next. I mean, they are right now. Don't get me wrong, but for a while here because they've got such a great front court, and um, Sabonis has been great this season. He's honestly been great every season, uh, but it's just you're playing against playoff staff, Clay Thompson, um, Wiggins, who's
Is
again,
Wiggins going to be back?
yeah, Wiggins is back.
Did he
So
has he played yet?
no, he hasn't played in a while.
His
Yeah,
last
Andrew
game
Wiggins,
was February 13th
right,
against
and
Washington.
that's because of family stuff,
Hmm.
which never was disclosed. But I mean, the only area I could really see Golden State having a trouble with is as good as Draymond is as being like uh, heckler to other
Hmm.
teams. You're going against Sabonis, even their rookie and Keegan Murray. You got Trey Lyles, Alex Len, like, or even Kessler Edwards. You could put in there,
Hmm.
Harrison Barnes. Like, I think they're just too big. Um, so and it'll be interesting how that evens out. But just thinking logically, 3 points is better than two.
Yep.
Yep.
You got Golden State in what, six? Five, six?
Yeah. Mhm.
Very nice. All right. And then to me, I think this is the most interesting one in the first round. Phoenix and the Clippers. What are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah. So as even as like I thought the Knicks matchup was with Cleveland. I think Clippers Suns might be even more. I
Well, and
mean,
better. I think they're both better teams than the other
well,
two.
that too. Um, and they actually were 2-2 in the regular season. Their head coaches are pretty even with Monty Williams, Tyronn Lue.
Hmm.
Um, but when I think starting five, I think Suns have quite an edge. Chris Paul, yeah, he's old, he's up there, but I think he's the better of point guards. And then I look at shooting guard.
Who's
Devin
starting for the Clippers?
Not Patrick Beverly, Russell. Russ.
Is Russ starting?
Pretty sure he's starting.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, and even if you don't start him, like, okay,
He'll get big minutes anyways.
right.
Okay.
But the big problem is that well, PG-13 is injured. He's still game time decision status. He's been out. So even if he does go, he's gonna kind of be limited. And so then you're looking at who do we start in place? Do we start Eric Gordon? Do we start Norman Powell? Do we maybe throw Terrence Mann in there? But you want to keep Terrence Mann probably at backup guard from the rolling off the bench. I mean, Bones Highland's been playing great for them. I don't know. I think it was Memphis or not Memphis who traded him. I don't know why. I think it was Minnesota why they traded him. But yeah, I just think as far as health goes, that's where Clippers run into a problem. But you could easily say the same about the Suns. Durant's been out for a while.
Yeah.
Chris Paul's always got an injury. So it's like polar opposites within the same roster. Really young talent and real old talent that's susceptible for injuries. But then when I look at the bench, I'm like, okay, Clippers, Terrence Mann, Eric Gordon, Norman Powell, Bones Highland, Plumlee, Covington. Like, we've got a really good bench, but I just think the starters are too much with a Durant, a Paul, DeAndre Ayton, too. And of course, Book. So
Yeah.
that's why I get
And
Suns.
TJ Warren is still there off the bench as well for the Suns, so that's a good.
Right.
Has he been playing well?
He's been playing okay. Now, if he plays like the bubble version of him, I mean, it's probably Suns at 4. But
We're not gonna get bubble TJ Warren.
yeah, I don't think we'll ever get that again. But no, he's been playing all right. But they did lose a lot from that Kevin Durant trade,
Yeah.
and I honestly thought they should have just held off. I thought they were fine as is. I mean, I know it was a weird locker room vibe, especially entering the season with
Hmm.
the whole DeAndre Ayton contract. So he wanted to go. He wanted a better extension. They weren't giving it to him. They got it all sorted out, but I thought they should have just kept what they had.
Yeah.
But
Well, I don't know. I mean, Durant is kind of like a championship or bust type move. So they have what?
right.
Do they have this season and next season with this group, or is it only this season?
Well, they have this season and next season, but you never know if Chris Paul's going to come back because,
That's true.
yeah,
I think if they get to the finals, he might for one more year, depending on his health, of course. If he's healthy, he might,
right.
because he doesn't have one. That's like I wanted him to win against Milwaukee. I think it was Milwaukee
Mhm.
they lost to.
Yep.
So he could get one because Giannis is gonna have another chance at one, anyways.
Yeah, eventually.
Um, so who you got in this series? You have Phoenix coming out?
I have Suns in 5
Suns
just
in
because of the
five.
Paul George injury. I think it's quite
So
significant.
yeah, I mean, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got Denver against who would they go up against? They would go up against
Lakers.
the Lakers. That's right. Who you got in that one?
I've got the Nuggets, but I got them in 7. I think the Lakers give
Mm.
them a real hard time. It's not. I think they come in thinking it's easy, even though they won't be doing that. But they get kind of slapped around. Um, but then they kind of regain themselves and they're like, "Hey, we've got a better starting 5. Let's go out and show it."
You
So
think like they go down 2-1 or 3-2 or something and bring it back?
yeah, or it's the vice versa where it's like, "Hey, we're up 2-0, and then they just kind of take their foot off the gas, something like that.
And it goes to 2-2. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, I agree with that actually, to
right.
be honest. So all right, so you got Denver. How matchup wise do they have? Because I look at Anthony Davis against and Jokic, like that sort of
Yeah.
matchup, and then I don't. Who do they have to match up with Braun?
I think.
Because that's where I would worry.
Oh, Michael Porter Jr. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
I'll put him on. Yeah.
yeah, that's true.
Um, you got Murray at the guard. Of course, you have the return of Caldwell Pope.
Hmm.
Aaron Gordon. That's it. That's what I'm thinking. Aaron
Oh, I
Gordon.
forgot about Aaron Gordon. Yeah,
Yeah. Or Jeff Green.
yeah, Jeff Green. They do have a good roster. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do agree though that I think so. The Nuggets are another team, one of these new teams that I haven't paid much attention. I don't know
Right.
the the profile of player of of Jamal Murray. Like I know he's good, but
Yeah.
is he one of those players that you could say is one of the best ones in the series type players, or is he just a good player like Michael Porter Jr.? I know he was injured all the time. Has he developed into a player that can make a difference in that
No,
way?
he can. He was a first round pick for a reason. Do I really think he's I don't think he's as big of a difference maker as, let's say, Jokic, Davis, Hart, or sorry, James. I could even maybe throw in there. I mean, I could say even Michael Porter Jr., but it will be interesting because, I mean, this is again all hypotheticals, but this is down the road. Um, but Denver also dealing with injuries. Like Murray's had a thumb problem, and he hasn't been shooting as well. That said, it's like their back guards are Reggie Jackson and Ish Smith, who were starting not too long ago, and even Bruce Brown. So
Yeah,
it's
those
like,
are starting caliber players for
yeah,
other
it's like
teams.
if that's the backup, I'm feeling pretty good.
Yeah. Is it a depth thing for them? You think that gets them through in the Lakers series?
Um, yeah, I do. Um, I think it's just a slight edge where they got the Lakers outmatched. That said, like at the forward and center position, they kind of lack where you
Mm-hmm.
could maybe exploit him. I mean, I know they have Thomas Bryant, um, Jeff Green, but after that, it's like who who do you got?
Yeah,
DeAndre Jordan. When was the last time I saw him?
I don't know.
Yeah,
No idea. I'm a horrible person to ask because when's the last time I've seen most of these people has been a while. So,
yeah,
all right. Then we got Phoenix and Golden State.
yeah. So got an upset. While Golden State might be the worst seed, theoretically they'd be the better match. Like they'd be favored over, let's say, the Suns. I mean, doesn't matter. It would be that way. But I have the Suns winning in six in
Mm.
in Phoenix. Although, or sorry, 2-2, 1-1. Or no, that'd be
That
in
would be
Golden
in Golden
State.
State. Yeah.
Yeah, in Golden State. I have Kevin Durant proving that he wasn't just along for the ride with the Warriors.
You think that's in his mind?
I think it's not at the top of his head, but I do think it's often in the back of his head,
It would
where
be a
it's
nice
like,
to have.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's really what I want to see in these playoffs is kind of these newer stories or these like comebacks, like people telling everyone that Embiid's not an MVP. He can't make it past the second round. Same with Jokic. He can't make it past the second round. LeBron's washed up. Um,
Who said that?
I mean, you look at it and it's
Did
like,
Skip Bayless say that?
I mean, he's always saying something, but it's like these stories where it's like they're writing people off, and it's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Let's get back to reality. These guys
Yeah.
are here for a reason. It's not easy to get into the NBA. It's not as easy
No.
as, I mean, numbers wise, it's a lot harder to get into the NBA than it is the NFL, Major League Baseball, most
Hmm.
sports. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%. So you think, because I look at that matchup, Golden State Phoenix, and I say at the guard position, Golden State got it for sure,
right.
just
Curry and Clay.
because Clay is a good enough
No,
defender. Like
uh,
Booker is really good, but Clay gives you enough offense, and I think he's better defensively. than Booker, and then I think Curry is just better than Paul.
I would argue it's even between Booker and Clay. Obviously, I'd give the edge to Curry, given his age, less injury history, and well, he's the greatest shooter of all time.
Yeah.
But then, okay,
Right, and then Durant is where they don't have a match. Like Wiggins, if he's back and
Wiggins, I'd
playing
probably put
well,
Draymond on him.
you
If
think
they got,
Draymond?
I'd
And
put
then
Draymond on maybe Durant.
yeah, and then Aiton is the other thing.
Right,
They have
that's
they
the
have
real
too
problem.
many. Yeah, they have too many. Like Durant
Forwards.
and Aiton are too. They're too big
Yeah,
to deal with. So yeah, I agree with you on that one as
and
well.
that was the problem with Oklahoma City last night. I was like, I was telling some of my family members that are sports fans that were watching the game. I was like, hey, Oklahoma City's not going to win this. Here's why. There's the Twin Towers, Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. Nobody's bigger than 6'10" on Oklahoma City right now.
Yeah,
There's no way they're winning inside the paint.
none.
And Karl Anthony Towns went off on that. It's like,
Rebounds win championships,
yeah,
or defense or offense, depending on who you talk to. All right, so then we got Phoenix
yeah.
and Denver in the conference finals.
Mhm.
How does that one break down? Because you've got the Aiton Jokic matchup, you've got
Right.
the Jamal Murray, probably Booker matchup. You've got
Yeah.
who do you think they put on Durant? Probably Aaron Gordon, maybe, or Michael Porter Jr.
I think they put Michael Porter given his
Yeah.
length.
Yeah. So you've got these matchups that are going, and then you've got the depth of Denver, obviously. How do you see that one playing out?
Denver in 7.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, the depth. I mean, you look at it, it's like, hey, one side you got Phoenix, they've got Chris Paul. Who's behind him? Like, who are we turning to after that? As far as, hey, we can't turn to Booker because he's already on the court. We already traded away all of our other guys, Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges. We traded them away to get, of course, Kevin Durant. So now we're left with Cameron Payne, who's not bad, Landry Shamet, who's kind of like a 3-point specialist, but is streaky.
He was good for you guys when he was in Philly, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was good, and then we shipped him off. Um, and then Terrence Ross, who's kind of like I don't really consider him a guard, maybe a shooting guard, more of a
He's like a
small forward.
slasher type. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like who are we having behind that? It's like Warren, Torrey Craig, Terrence Ross, Cameron Payne, and Biombo are our backups. Is that good enough? I don't think so.
Well, I don't know. If the starters are playing 45 minutes a night, then
Right. You don't have to really rely on that, but let's say Jokic provides too much of a problem for Aiton, causes foul trouble, anything
mhm.
like that, or even Jamal Murray, then it's like, okay, we got to turn to these guys. And there's a
Mm,
big drop off in talent.
yeah.
That's where it's a problem.
So you got what, Denver in 6, 7?
Yeah, I have Denver in 7.
Denver in 7. All right, so that brings us to the finals. So we've
Yeah.
got Denver against 76ers. This is the
So,
Jokic
yeah.
Embiid matchup, the MVP matchup. How do you see this one playing out? Do you see this one as a competitive series, or do you
Yeah,
see
I
this
do.
as break down the matchups for us?
Yeah. So, right off the bat, I'm taking Sixers in 6. Reason being, I mean, the main reason, aside from, of course, the players, matchups, talent, all that, I'm thinking, okay, Denver Sixers go through a 4, maybe 5 game series with the Nets. And they go through, let's say, a 7 game series with Boston, and then let's say 6 or 7 with Milwaukee. And I look at Denver, you're going through 5, maybe with the Timberwolves, but then you're going back to back sevens. You're going 7 with the Lakers,
Hmm.
or no, not 7 with the Lakers. Yeah, 7 with the Lakers,
Yeah.
and then 7 with Phoenix. So that's where it's like, okay, I'm adding another game or two. Um, as far as matchups go, point guard, you're looking Harden versus Murray. Pretty even, I'd say. I'd probably give the edge slightly to Harden, especially experience.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, Murray's got a little bit more youth. Um, as far as shooting guard goes, you got Tyrese Maxey. Trying to think who would be Denver's. It would be Porter. It'd be what's not Reggie Jackson. Caldwell Pope. That's what it is.
Ah, yes, that's right.
I'd probably go Maxey, even
Mm-hmm.
though Caldwell Pope's a better defender.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or it's pretty even at least. Small forward, you're looking at Tobias Harris, Michael Porter Jr. Say it's pretty even. Again, one of those. Uh, I think I think Michael Porter maybe has a little bit. He's younger, maybe a little bit more length, but Harris is more of a veteran. He's a smarter player, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Power forward, you look at, of course, I don't know. We're looking at Tucker, of course, for us, but
Gordon.
Tucker versus Aaron Gordon. Gordon's a great scorer. Tucker's a good defender. Again, probably even, maybe give a slight edge to Gordon. And then you get the one-on-one versus Jokic and Embiid. So,
Yeah.
so it's pretty even, and that's where I was saying in the beginning, hey, I mean, the Sixers, they've never asked their bench really to do much these past couple seasons.
Are you
Other than,
worried about the depth of Denver prevailing over your bench?
well, that's the thing is past seasons, I would say definitely. This season, I would say differently just because we have a Shake Milton who's got more experience, but a DeAnthony Melton, Jalen McDaniels, Danul House Jr., those are new additions and great scorers. McDaniels is a great defender. Niang can hit threes. He's been there. He can hit threes. Milton's streaky, but you have Melton who can hit threes. Niang can hit threes. Milton, the House can hit threes. Like, so it comes to that 3 versus 2. Hey, I'm choosing these guys over, let's say, Reggie Jackson, who, yeah, maybe shoots threes here and there, but I don't see 3-point specialists on Denver's bench.
Yeah, so you got enough. Well, do you have enough shot creating on the bench to get
Right.
those guys looks, or no?
Yeah. The only thing I could see a problem is maybe size, because you have like a Thomas Bryant, a Zeke Nanjiani, or Nanji, um, at the center backup kind of position. And those guys are definitely taller,
Hmm. Fair
or
enough.
bigger at least. Yeah.
So you got what, Sixers in six,
Right. Mm-hmm.
Sixers in six.
Yeah.
Fair enough. For those listening, you should come back and tell us that we got them all wrong, except the finals, of course. Um,
Yeah.
any other stories to note, tidbits, things to watch for, players, matchups that you're interested in
I
that we
mean,
haven't touched on really?
not really. I mean, there's always those hypotheticals. Again, this is all hypothetical. This is be incredible if it did happen. But I mean, there's always a story of, hey, Boston versus LA. Like I thought that was going to happen, I think 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Um, Now the past 3 times Milwaukee's played Miami in the playoffs, that team, the winner has gone to make the NBA championship each year. So that's another thing to watch. Um, then there's teams who are just overlooked. Like, could the Hawks give Boston a hard time? Could
No.
could the Kings upset the Warriors? I mean, they have a good front court. I mean, they're young. They're no Steph Curry, but you can upset them. They're a number 3 seed for a reason. But aside from that, no. Do I think the Dallas Mavericks should be penalized more for losing on purpose? Yes.
It's fine. It happens. They had injuries or something. Actually, I want to touch on the Kings. What happened to the Kings? Because they hadn't made the playoffs at all in what, 20 years or something like that. And now all of a sudden they've got this team that's a 3 seed in the West, which used to be or still is the star-studded good conference. And you got these guys that have just ended up at a three
Yeah.
seed. How did that happen from the last? Because I know they had Buddy Hield and De'Aaron Fox, and what 2 or 3 years ago, people were saying, oh, they might turn into something,
Hmm.
but to go from squeaking into the playoffs to a 3 seed is a big jump.
Yeah, it definitely is. But what helps, I mean, it kind of helps when Golden State's not as good as they are. They're injured, they're out. That definitely helps. On top of that, they bring in key guys like they give out Buddy Hield. They bring in Sabonis. Harrison Barnes was already there. He's been playing well. Um, but they really focus on the guard positions these past couple of drafts with at first De'Aaron Fox. Of course, Buddy Hield, Davion Mitchell out of Baylor. But then they add guys who complement very well, like Kevin Herter, they brought in from Atlanta. They bring in Malik Monk. So they've got good depth. Again, it's a lot of that, not a big drop off after their starter. Maybe De'Aaron Fox there is. But then you get a top three player in Keegan Murray this past year out of Iowa. Definitely helps, especially when he can be a starter in his first season.
So good drafting, good front office moves.
Yeah, and I think they still honestly have a lot of cap space to work with, which is incredible.
So they're a team to watch. They could make some move. I know
Right,
pulling a big star to Sacramento is not going to be easy just from a market perspective, but they could be one to watch then.
right. Or not, they could bring back Mike Bibby. Good return. But yeah,
That's the
no, they're
most
a good team.
ridiculous thing you've said all day.
Hey, you're the Bibs.
More ridiculous than Philly winning the championship.
Yeah. Well,
After you guys,
yeah.
you guys have not had a good year. Union
No,
lost
no.
penalties.
Yeah,
Uh,
throw in the USFL while we're at it. We lost.
how many championships have you guys lost this year?
So Philadelphia Stars, USFL.
Mm-hmm.
Philadelphia Union, MLS. Then we have Phillies losing the Major League Baseball. Eagles losing the Super Bowl. Yeah, not been easy. That said, it's like, did I really think? I mean, maybe the Union, but aside from that, did I really think any of those teams were going to make it that far? No.
So you're
Like,
taking it. You're taking the good, and then still being angry because you're Philly fans.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. It's in the
Yeah,
past. It's like you can keep complaining or you can just move on and adapt. So,
you guys will get one. The
yeah,
76ers will get it for you.
yeah, it's the one that we don't think that's gonna, of course, work out. That's my thinking. At least that's my
Uh,
hope.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
I appreciate your time.
yeah.
Phillies or not Phillies.
Well done too.
76ers to win the championship, according to our resident sports guy. Go check out his blog. Link will be in the description. There's been not as many posts recently, but he's going to get back to it. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Especially with the NBA draft, I'm already working on those scouting reports. Whatever team gets Victor, I'm not even gonna bother his last name. Well,
Yeah, I
they've
wouldn't
got a
either.
franchise.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.